When amateur scientist Oliver first discovered this long-lost treasure, he couldn't believe what he saw. This could be the biggest discovery of the century and make him the famous scientist he always wanted to be. His colleagues warned him about what he found, and after seeing what was inside, they thought it was haunted. But Oliver ignored their warnings. He would always remember the moment he pulled that object out of the water. Oliver couldn't believe his eyes when he saw that the missing airplane was real. Everyone thought it was just a children's story, but Oliver was about to show the world the truth. He tried with all his strength to break the window, but it was nearly impossible underwater. If he wanted to find out if the stories were true, he needed to find another way inside. He had to prove it to everyone. This could change everything. Oliver swam around the sunken airplane looking for another way in, but there was none. He wasted a lot of time swimming, and his air tank was almost empty, so he had to swim back to the surface and think of a new plan. Just as he turned to go back to the boat, he heard strange noises coming from the airplane. It sounded like someone was knocking on the window. That can't be possible, Oliver whispered to himself. Could the missing archaeologist still be alive? He swam to the boat as fast as he could. He needed to return quickly. What if the archaeologist was still alive? Oliver wanted to save him, but he didn't have a spare air tank. He had to go back to town, get new gear, and figure out what was going on. As Oliver sailed toward the nearest town, he noticed bad weather coming. The clouds got darker, the rain started to fall, and the currents grew stronger. A storm was approaching, and Oliver needed to get back to the mainland before it was too late. He was feeling stressed. He had never faced anything like this before. The waves got higher and higher, making it almost impossible for him to control the boat. Oliver was in the eye of the storm. He had never seen anything like this before. An enormous wave hit the boat, capsizing and instantly sinking it. Oliver was pulled into the depths. He tried to swim back to the surface as fast as he could, but the boat was completely destroyed. Only a few floating pieces remained. Oliver swam to one of the pieces and held on for dear life. He clung to the piece of wood as tightly as possible, watching the remains of his boat sink to the bottom of the ocean. With no end in sight, Oliver became more and more desperate. He was exhausted and didn't have the strength to swim anymore. He had been out on these waters for hours. He climbed onto the floating piece he had been holding and decided to close his eyes for just a minute. Oliver woke up to a wave crashing in his face. When he opened his eyes, he saw blue skies and heard voices in his head. He realized he was alive. Two fishermen found him floating in the sea, shocked, and brought him to their village. Oliver was in a strange place, far from where he was supposed to be. He needed gear and help to return to the sunken airplane, but he was exhausted and needed to freshen up, eat, and sleep first. As he walked through the village looking for a hotel, the villagers stared at him suspiciously, as if they didn't want him there. He almost lost hope, but then he found a bar that let him in and offered him a room. However, they wanted something in return. Answers. People had heard rumors about Oliver's finding. They heard that he had discovered a hidden treasure while he was out in the ocean. The villagers thought Oliver was a rich man and that he was carrying the treasure with him. Oliver had no choice but to tell the truth, so he shared the story of his expedition. However, when he told his story, nobody believed him. They thought he was just some delusional freak and they left. But there was one mysterious person who remained in the room all night long. A guy was sitting in the corner, out of sight. He was talking to himself, and his head twitched every now and then. When everyone else left, the guy approached Oliver. "What do you want from me?" Oliver shouted, agitated. The guy introduced himself. "Hi, Oliver. My name is Jose, also known as the town's freak. I overheard your story about the sunken airplane. It was said," Jose continued, "that I believe in urban legends. This was no exception. Let me tell you one thing, I am not crazy, and neither are you." Jose told the story of a treasure hunter who stole from a temple. It was rumored that the person who stole the treasures from this temple would be cursed. Although he allegedly succeeded in obtaining the treasure, he was never seen again. Maybe this could be him, Jose suggested. Skeptical as he was, Oliver didn't believe a word Jose said. However, Jose did offer his help to investigate the sunken airplane. Oliver needed assistance to learn more about this mysterious aircraft, so he acted like he believed the urban legend. After a few drinks, Jose left, and they agreed to meet the next morning and return to the sunken plane. Since Oliver still thought Jose was a weird guy, He wondered whether he would ever see him again. However, Joss would remain with Oliver until the issue was cleared up. That night, Oliver struggled to sleep, haunted by what he had seen earlier. The image of the airplane was bizarre, and he wasn't sure if he had seen it correctly. However, Joss's story matched his experience, making Oliver wonder if it could be true. Unable to shake his curiosity, he decided to search for answers at the local library. If Joss is telling the truth, there must be something written about it, he thought. As he left his room, he sensed footsteps behind him. At first, he ignored it, but when he went outside, he realized someone was following him. Feeling scared, he ran through alleys until he lost his pursuer. Once at the library, Oliver searched for the right book. After nearly an hour, he found an old dusty book with some damaged pages. Flipping through it, he discovered an image that confirmed Joss's story. Oliver couldn't believe it. Joss was right after all. This discovery would change everything. As Oliver attempted to tear out some of the pages, he noticed a shady man in the library's corner. Could this be the same guy who had been following him? He couldn't tell who this man was, but his gut told him that this was his stalker. Out of fear, Oliver instantly ran away, but when he turned around, there was already someone standing behind him. Oliver had never been this scared in his life. He felt like this was the end. He needed to confess everything. He had never experienced this kind of situation before, and he had never been good at lying. So Oliver had no choice but to confess his plans. Then, with all the luck in the world, something happened that would change everything. "Hey, Oliver, right? I was wondering if you could help me with something. I can't reach the shelf of the book you're holding. Can you put it back when you're done reading it?" Fortunately, it was the library. A relief washed over Oliver's shoulders, but he still wanted to leave the library as fast as possible. He went back to the hotel and went straight to bed. When Oliver woke up in the morning, he was eager to find out what was inside the airplane. But when he turned around, he got the shock of his life. Joss was sitting next to Oliver's bed, waiting for him to wake up. "What the hell are you doing here?" Oliver shouted at Joss, finding it very strange that Joss was suddenly beside his bed. Joss was silent for a minute, then got up and walked away. "I wonder why they call you the town freak," Oliver muttered eventually. Later, Oliver and Joss met again in the hotel lobby without discussing what had happened earlier. They made their way to the boat rental company. Oliver kept a close eye on Joss because he was no longer sure if he could trust him. The longer they were together, the more suspicious Oliver became of Joss. Joss was just this weird guy acting strange, talking to the voices in his head and arguing with himself. Maybe it was a bad idea to take Joss with him, but Oliver knew that sending Joss away was pointless. It was quite a hard spot to find since Oliver didn't remember the exact coordinates, and everything had been lost during the capsizing of his boat. But after almost an hour, they finally arrived at the spot. Now they would finally get to know what was hidden in that airplane. Oliver and Joss got ready to dive into the water. They brought some tools to help break the window. Oliver made sure he was well prepared. He didn't want to come back empty-handed this time. Preparation was important. When Oliver and Joss dove down, they noticed they were getting closer. It was quite deep, and after about 20 meters underwater, they saw the plane in the distance. As soon as they reached the plane, Oliver smashed the window. Both Oliver and Joss couldn't believe their eyes when they saw what was inside. They started to cry, and Oliver was shocked to realize that Joss had been telling the truth all along. Maybe he wasn't as crazy as Oliver had thought. This discovery was incredible. They decided to bring it back to the surface for a closer look. It was heavier than they expected, so it took a while to get it back to the boat, but after working hard, they succeeded. Now they could finally see the treasure they had found. At first glance, it looked like a mummy, but they knew there was more to it. When they opened it up, they found a beautiful diamond. It must be worth millions, they thought. Months later, they set up an auction to sell this amazing treasure. They shared the story of the treasure hunter and the curse on the stolen treasure. The price was very high, and the diamond sold for $54 million. Oliver and Joss would never have to worry about money again. What do you think of this story? Please let us know in the comments section. I hope you like this video. Please give it a thumbs up and share it with your loved ones. Also subscribe and press the bell icon to never miss the update from our channel. Thank you.